get from the Louisiana Wildlife and Fishery. The state owns the water bottom, and we lease the bottom from them to grow our oysters. And you see all these black marks on here? This is oyster leases.
How many acres do you have on the lease, Willie?
I have approximately about 3,000 acres.
So you own your own boats, and tell them what happens, how you prepare your beds once you get a lease from the state.
Well, a bed, to get a lease from the state, you want to find a suitable water bottom. And some of that water bottom out there is like just a sponge, you know, anything you put on it just sinks. But you have to find a sturdy bottom that support any culture, anything you put down for the oysters to take on. And the oysters, when I say take, it's a certain time of the year. An oyster, in the wintertime, the oyster builds up to what we call it a milk. And when they lose their milk around the summertime, when the temperature starts changing in the water temperature, they'll start this milk is a little bitty microorganism, little cells, whatever.
It's a spat.
It's a spat after. And, like if y'all notice when y'all come in, all these oyster shells in the hill up here, stuff like that in the gravel, anything like that, a spat, the larvae take on that and start forming a spat. And a spat actually looks about like, when you can start seeing it good, about like my little fingernail. It's kind of got that red color too to it. So,
but to prepare your beds, you go out there and put a hard surface bottom on your
no,
lease.
you don't have to.
You don't?
No. When you have a sturdy foundation, you can put shells like these shells we have in the back. I'll take and put them back in the water, and the spats take on these shells and it'll make your reef.
So what is the lifespan of an oyster? About 18 months? 3 years?
No. When it comes from about the fingernail size, it depends on your water conditions, your currents, and the feed that the water had, that's in the water from the filter to feed. And if the conditions is right, in 2 years you can get probably about a 3-4 inch oyster.
So in 2 years your oyster is a good maturity.
Yeah.
But the lifespan is short, isn't it? After 2 years they might live another year?
No, they'll live for several years. They just grow slower, and we don't harvest oysters that big.
Do y'all have to pull the oysters up and break them apart where they grow in a cluster?
Yeah, sure do. And I have some pictures on the wall.
You grow them all on the bottom. You don't grow them on like in New England, for example, we grow them in cages.
It's all on
like
the bottom.
Rats.
And a lot of our reefs is natural. Over years of time, the spat would take on just shells that were, things that was laying on the bottom, and kind of anything to attach to, because you got to attach to something to grow, and you have something on the bottom for them to attach, and they'll continuously, at times they'll die, and they'll more will take. And we have some areas out there toward the west called Keys, Shell Keys, and it's next to the Chafalaya River. Well, in that area, you have your fresh water that comes in and it kill what's growing. But oyster can't take that fresh water. You got to have that mixture of fresh water and salt water. Because oysters grow out of salt and fresh water.
It makes a brackish water.
It makes a brackish water.
So if you have 3,000 acres of oyster beds, and you have what, 2 boats working these beds?
Yeah, at times I have as much as 4 or 5 boats with them.
Okay.
How do you harvest them?
Yeah.
You want to get to that a little bit later?
Sure.
I'm gonna get around to it
Okay.
because I have some equipment, some old equipment back here in my I'll show you. And I have some pictures in here of one of my boats, what the oysters look like on
Let's
one of
go
my
in.
boats.